our set 4-part stories so you don't have to. That's Madden, and she's telling us that back on August 4th, 2024, her ex-boyfriend ended up shooting her. She tells us that now the case is over, she's ready to talk about it. And she details that night they got up, she went to take him to work, and she said, hey, I'll be back at 12 to pick you up. And he's like, okay, bet. That same day, one of her cousins was having a party for a friend of hers. And so she called her up and she was like, hey, Madden, do you want to come to this party? It's going to be at an Airbnb. It's actually really close to your house. Madden's like, yeah, sure, why not? I'll come over. Madden ends up calling her ex-boyfriend's cousin, we're going to call her Mary, to come and join her at the Airbnb party. She agrees. So Madden ends up going home, getting dressed. So Madden leaves the house around 10:30, knowing she's gonna get to the Airbnb a little bit before Mary does. She parks outside and she ends up calling somebody else. I couldn't really understand. I think she called him C, but she called somebody else that was already inside of the party to come outside and wait with her in the car. So they're chopping it up for like 30 minutes in the car, right? Eventually, the people inside of the house are like, hey, do you think Mary can go to the liquor store and pick us up some more alcohol? And Madden's like, yeah, I don't see why not. They call Mary and Mary's like, sure, I'll do that. And then Madden's like, hey, I'll meet you at the liquor store so that way I can bring the money to you and you don't have to like double back. So she gets the money, they go to the liquor store, they come back to the Airbnb. She's there for like not that long because mind you, she has to pick up her boyfriend at 12 o'clock, right? She looks at the clock. She's like, you know what? I'm just gonna send him a lift. She was already thinking like a backup plan for her anyway. So she calls him and she's like, hey, I'm gonna send you a lift. And his job's like 15 minutes away from the house and she's like not that far away from their house either. So she's like, it's just easier for me to just send you a lift. Immediately, because he hears other men in the background of her conversation, he gets irritated and just hangs up on her. So she already knows what's up. Like he's irritated, right? So now she's watching her Lyft app to see if he gets into the lift. She sees that he does. He heads home. So she tells everybody like, hey y'all, like I'm gonna call it a night, I'm gonna go home. So she explains that he has a few different phones. Like he has a regular iPhone, an Android, and a flip phone. The Android, I guess, gives power to the iPhone so that it can have hotspot and be able to work, and then the flip phone is what he used to be able to call people. And so he ends up telling her like, oh, I hung up because the Android died, so I couldn't, you know, use the iPhone anymore. But she's like, you have the flip phone, you could call me, but whatever. Mind you, he has everything that he needs to be able to get into the house. He has keys, he has all that, but she just knew that he's probably irritated also because she told him that, you know, she was gonna pull up at 12 and pick him up, and now she's sending a lift. So she was just like, you know what, I'm just gonna go home and be with my man. So when she leaves, Mary ends up leaving too, and they end up like following each other up until the point that the highway comes up. And Mary ends up breaking off onto the highway, and then she ends up going, you know, towards her house. She gets to the house just as his lift is dropping him off as well, and she can still see because the door's kind of open. He ends up coming back outside and then coming to her car and being like, hey, like let me see your keys, I'm gonna go to the gas station. And she's like, I'll just take you, right? So he hops in the car. So at the gas station, he has like a whole attitude. He hops out the car. She doesn't even know if he has cash. Mind you, his Android's dead, which means his iPhone's not working, so he doesn't have Apple Pay. She wasn't even able to ask if he needed cash. He just hopped out the car. He made a call and then came right back to the car, and as he's getting in, he tells them, yeah, okay, cool, I'm about to get back to the house and then I'll let you know what's up. And so she's like looking at him like, are you about to go out? And he's like, well, are you about to go out? And she's like, well, I can go back to where I was at, I can go back to the Airbnb, but like what's going on? I came back so I can be with you, like, you know? He's just like obviously having quite the attitude. So Madden's like, whatever, I'm not even gonna deal with all this. She decides that she needs to go to the hookah store, so she pulls off to go to the hookah store. She's expecting him to take the keys out of the ignition, so in case he tries to do that, she quickly took the keys out. But what she wasn't thinking about was her phone. He goes and grabs her phone out of her hand and he chucks it out the window. And she's like, what the hell? And he gets out. And she's just like, why would you do that? At this point, she's so pissed. She's just like, I don't understand what's going on. She just pulls off and she drives off. She tells us, she was like, I'm trying to be, you know, right with God, like this is not going the way I needed to go. So she ends up deciding to turn back around and pick up her ex. She said she was never actually going to leave him, but she turns back around, and at some point he, I guess, had crossed the street. She said when she pulled up on him, she didn't try to hit him, she didn't try to like swerve on him, she just pulled up casually. And so she pulls up next to him and she's like, why would you throw my phone? Like, go get my phone. And he's telling her like, I'm not getting no phone, I'm not getting in the car, da-da-da-da. And she's just like literally trying to reason with him, and they're just going back and forth while he's walking on the side of the street and she's like slowly driving next to him. She just keeps asking him, why did you throw my phone? He's not really giving her an answer, and then all of a sudden he takes a pew-pew out of his pocket and then he shoots it into the air a few times, and this obviously startles her. As he's shooting the pew-pew in the air, he basically tells her like, I'm not giving you no phone, just go home, there's nothing to discuss, basically. And before she knew it, after he let off the shots, he had made his way around the car to her driver's side now, right? And so now he's walking up on her driver's side and she just hears him walking closer up on her. So at this point, he's approached her driver's side and he's put the pew 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 to her face, and he's like, drive off, I'm not gonna tell you again, drive off. And she's like, I'm not scared of anything, I'm not scared of anything but God. Like, I don't know if you thought that was gonna do something to me. But she's just like, at this point, doesn't know what to really do, so she decides to end up just driving off, right? So as she's pulling off, he lets off shots, and 2 of them end up hitting her. She ends up losing control of her legs immediately. Right when they go numb, she ends up crashing into a truck in front of her. She thought it happened in slow motion, but when she saw the video, it happened very, very quickly. And so at this point, she's crashed into a car in front of her. Her car can't move, and she's calling for him. She's like, hey, come help me, like, I need help. And he took a while, and she's thinking about it, and in hindsight, she's like, I think he was getting rid of the pew pew at that point. So he ends up running up to her, and she's trying to tell him, like, yo, I'm hit, like, I need help. She's trying to tell him, like, call the ambulance, like, I'm hurt, you know? And he's trying to tell her, like, no, like, you're fine. And he literally gets her out of the car and moves her, which I don't think you're supposed to do. And when she's telling him too, like, I don't think you should move me, like, I'm hit, you know? And so he's basically telling her, like, I'm gonna get in trouble, I'm gonna go to jail. And she's like, I'm hurt. I'm gonna need you to call the ambulance. And mind you, her phone's gone. He never gave it back to her. As she's continually asking him to call the ambulance, he keeps claiming he has no phone, but she knows he has the flip phone and that he can still use it to call people. And he just keeps telling her, no. So he moves her again, and he puts her in the back seat. And at this point, she's telling him, it's not my time to go. It's not my time to go. You need to call the ambulance, you know? And he just keeps saying, I don't have a phone. He just keeps telling her, like, I don't want to go to jail. And she's like, it's gonna be fine. Everything's gonna be fine. Just please call the ambulance. She even saw like a van drive by them, and they tried to like get them to stop. They kept driving, which she said I kind of understand, but still she was like, wow, I can't believe you just like saw someone hurt and didn't do anything. At the end of the day, he finally called the ambulance. She said it took some time for them to finally show up, but when they did, she overheard him confirming her age, her name, her, you know, all of that. And then she heard them radio back and be like, 20-year-old female shot twice. And this is when she was like, oh my God, I'm shot twice. Because mind you, the whole time that she was in the car and she's dealing with him not calling the ambulance, she's trying to calm herself down and tell herself, I'm fine. She was trying her best not to throw herself into shock, right? She was just like staying calm. So when she finally heard that she was hit twice, she lost it. She completely panicked. At the time, she was only 98 pounds. Finally, Maddie is placed inside of the ambulance, and this is when the police finally arrive. And they tell her, hey, he's asking to go in the ambulance with you. Do you want your ex to come with you? And she's like, no, he's the one that shot me. Do not let him around me. She said, call my grandmother. Even though her grandmother was out of town, she was like, I don't know why I said that, but that's the only person's number I had memorized at the time. They're telling her they're going to take her to St. John's Hospital. She's like, please don't take me there. They have a horrible reputation. Please don't. And they're trying to tell her, like, they're a trauma center. We have to take you there. So when she finally gets to the hospital, they're checking her. They're doing exams. They're trying to touch on her and be like, do you feel this? Do you feel that? And nothing is giving her feedback. She can't feel anything from literally the chest below. And at this point, all worst case scenarios are flying through her brain. She's just trying to figure out, like, what does this mean exactly? She ends up sitting alone in the room for about 35 minutes. Her mind is just racing. She's crying. She's just like, I can't feel a single thing. And when her mom finally arrived and her grandmother finally arrived, she was able to tell them exactly what happened. Shortly after that, her and her family end up meeting with the neurosurgeon. And this is when he tells her, you have a 5% chance of ever walking again. But she said it, God has the last word when it comes to that situation. After that, detectives ended up coming to Maddie's room and asking her, hey, what kind of gun was used during your shooting? She told them it was a Taurus 9mm. And they said, oh, okay. Later on, she found out that they were actually confirming the weapon with her. So shortly after that, she's in the hospital. She's trying to get better. But the wound on her hip was not really healing. And it had some type of like liquid coming out of it. And when the doctors and her were kind of looking at it, they came to the conclusion that it was stool coming out of her hip joint. And what actually ended up happening was one of the bullets ended up snipping her intestine and was causing it to leak out of her hip wound. She ended up undergoing surgery where they put a colostomy bag on her, and she was fighting fevers and infections, and it was just like a horrible time for her. As she healed and a rehab bed ended up opening up for her, they sent her off to go get rehab, and she said it was actually really good for her. The judge in her case, he attempted to subpoena her to show up in court even though she was on a stretcher. He was also threatening her and telling her, if you don't show up, I'm going to dismiss the case and I'm going to let him go free. That same week that he was asking her to show up, he ended up being put on suspension because apparently he put a little girl in handcuffs because she fell asleep during a field trip in the courtroom. Maddie goes on to tell us that she lost a lot of friends throughout this whole thing. People were like not really showing up for her. They weren't checking on her. And the people that she did expect to do that were actually spreading false rumors saying that she was in a car with another guy. That's why her ex-boyfriend did this to her. All types of things. And she said, you really realize the only person you really have is God during situations like this. Maddie did end up making an impact statement and speaking during the court case. And he is in jail now. And ultimately, she was just like, Me and the 10 people that came to support me on that day were there to see this, but he had so many supporters. So many people were upset with her for, essentially sending him to jail. Family and friends of the ex-boyfriend went as far as to tell Madden that they hope she never walks again. Madden is still very much healing from this traumatic thing that happened to her. As she was telling us this story, she was like actively in the hospital fighting another infection. So I'm sending her so much prayer and so much love. I'm so sorry that something like so horrible over nothing could happen to you, and I hope this type of love never finds you and none of us ever again. You guys tagged me in this bunch. I wanted to make sure I got it out to you guys. I appreciate you guys as always. Bye.